I have a list, not a written list. A list I carry in my mind, the way older people carry things they cannot put down. A list of people who were real friends, people who knew me in the specific, hard-to-replicate way that only long friendship produces, who drifted away so gradually that I did not notice the drifting until the distance was too large to cross in an afternoon, and some of them are gone now. Not estranged, not ended in any dramatic way. Gone in the way people go when time runs out before the call is made. I am 87 years old, and that list is the thing I think about most. Not my failures, not the opportunities I did not take. The list of names. The people I am no longer able to reach. The world talks about the regret of the friendship that ended in a fight. The falling out, the betrayal, the dramatic rupture that everyone can see and explain. But the most common way friendship ends is far quieter than that. It ends in drift, in the gradual, completely unintentional, entirely preventable accumulation of intervals between contact that grow longer and longer until an interval simply becomes the new permanent. And the most painful version of the drift, the one I carry in my list, is not the friends who ended. It is the ones who were still there, still reachable, still alive on the other end of a phone that I kept not picking up, until one day the phone could no longer reach them. Let me tell you about Bernard. Bernard and I had been friends for 37 years when the drift began. We had met in our 20s at work, discovered we were the kind of friends who could pick up a conversation mid-sentence after months apart without losing the thread, and settled into the particular ease of a friendship that neither of us had to work at because it had always been natural. We had both grown older, both had more competing demands than we once had, both had, in the way of people in their 50s and 60s, full lives that filled the available time with obligations that felt more urgent than a phone call that could always be made tomorrow. It started with the intervals growing, 6 weeks between calls instead of 3, then 3 months instead of 6 weeks, then 6 months. And at each interval, the awareness that time had passed was accompanied by the comfortable reassurance that Bernard was there, that the friendship was intact, that the gap was temporary and easily repaired and not an emergency, because it did not feel like an emergency. That is the specific deception of the drift. It never feels like an emergency. It feels like a comfortable pause, like a friendship placed on a shelf while more urgent things are attended to, like something that will still be there when the urgent things have resolved. But the urgent things never resolve, they simply change. And the shelf where the friendship was placed collects dust, and the friendship on it does not announce that it is changing. It simply quietly requires less of your attention the longer it has gone without it, until the silence is not a temporary pause. It is the new shape of what remains. It was 18 months. That was the last interval, though I did not know it was the last. I had thought of Bernard regularly. I had meant to call. I had, on specific occasions, put his name in my mind and assigned it to the next available morning, and then allowed the next available morning to arrive and fill with other things. 18 months, and then a message from Bernard's wife telling me he had died. Not suddenly. He had been unwell for some months, in the way that people are sometimes unwell without making it known to everyone they love, without wanting to impose the weight of it on the people whose presence they most value. He had been thinking of me, his wife told me. He had mentioned me. He had, in the last weeks of his life, intended to call. We had both been intending to call for 18 months. I have carried that for 7 years, not with bitterness, not with the specific agony of guilt that this story might suggest. with the particular, quiet, permanent weight of knowing that the thing I valued was available to me for 18 months, and that I did not reach for it, and that the reaching is no longer possible. The friendship did not end, it was interrupted. The difference is the most painful thing I know. I have thought in the 7 years since about what I would say to someone who is in the middle of their own version of this story, who has, right now, a person on their list, someone whose name appears at 3 in the morning and then disappears under the day's demands, someone they are not calling and not losing, and who is quietly, certainly, without drama or announcement, drifting toward a distance that will one day be permanent. 3 things. From 87 years and 7 years of carrying a list. First, the drift is not neutral. Most people think of the drift as an absence, a pause, a nothing. And because nothing seems to be happening, the drift does not register as action. It registers as stillness, as a natural consequence of a busy life, as the understandable result of 2 people whose days have become full in ways they did not have to manage when the friendship began. But the drift is not a nothing. The drift is a daily decision, made without awareness, without intention, but still a decision to spend the available time on something other than the friendship. And every day of that decision is a day the friendship exists on less than what it needs to hold its shape. Not broken, but quietly, cumulatively, growing lighter, until it is held in place by nothing more substantial than the belief that it is still there. It is still there, but only for as long as both people are still there to hold it. And one of you one day will not be. The drift is not a pause, it is a direction. And the direction leads somewhere you will not choose when you see where it ends. Second, the interval has a limit. This is the thing the comfortable reassurance does not tell you. The interval between contact can be extended a certain number of times before it becomes permanent, not because the friendship ends in any formal sense, but because people die and circumstances change, and the specific reachable version of a person that you are meaning to reach is not guaranteed to be there at the other end of tomorrow's call. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you this because the comfortable reassurance that Bernard was there, that the friendship was intact, that the pause was temporary, turned out to be incorrect in a specific and irreversible way. The reassurance was sincere. It was not accurate. The interval has a limit. You do not know where the limit is. You will not be told when you are approaching it. The only response to this that makes any sense is to not test the limit at all. Call them. Not when you have time. Not when the current urgent thing has resolved. Not when you feel ready with something interesting to say. Today, an ordinary call on an ordinary day to say that you are thinking of them, that you value them, that the friendship is not something you have placed on a shelf while you attend to more urgent things, that it is, in fact, more urgent than the things you have been treating as more urgent. Third, maintenance is a form of love. This is the thing about friendship that is different from romantic love in a way that matters. Romantic love, at its best, renews itself. It has enough energy in its early stages to carry the relationship forward on its own momentum, and in its best long-term forms it develops a depth that sustains itself across periods of less active investment. Friendship does not always have that. Friendship, particularly the friendship of middle and later life, when both people are full of competing demands, requires active maintenance, not grand gestures, not dramatic expressions of feeling. The call, the message that says, "I was thinking of you," the question that says, "I am interested in your life," the attendance at the ordinary occasions of a friend's life, not because they require it, but because you value them enough to show up. Maintenance is not the absence of passion. It is the practice of care for something you value, expressed in the specific, consistent, unremarkable ways that let the person on the other end of it know that they are valued. It is what love looks like between two people who have known each other long enough that the love no longer announces itself. It is showing up. Calling. Not when the circumstances are perfect. On an ordinary Tuesday. Bernard was worth a call on an ordinary Tuesday. I knew that. I had known it for 37 years. And for 18 months of ordinary Tuesdays I did not make the call. Not because I did not love him. Because I did not understand clearly enough that maintenance is a form of love, and that the absence of maintenance is a slow withdrawal of something the person you love can feel even if they never say it. I am 87 years old, and I make the calls now, not always comfortably, not always with something interesting to say, sometimes simply to say, I am thinking of you. The friendship is not on a shelf. You are not a task on my list that will be attended to when the more urgent things have resolved. You are the more urgent thing, the name that just appeared in your mind as I said that. The person whose face came to you as I described the list I carry, the friend you have been meaning to call for 3 months, for 6 months, for longer than that. That is the sign, not a complicated sign. Simply the person your mind chose to send you right now. Call them today. Not to repair something. Not to make up for the interval. Simply to say, I have been thinking of you. And the friendship is not something I am placing on hold. It is one of the most important things in my life, and I wanted you to know it while I could still tell you, while you still can. While they can still hear it, make the call.